The channel has crossed over 7,000 views, and I just wanted to take a moment out of the front part of this video to say thank you to everyone who has come here and contributed. 10 weeks ago, this channel had 700 or so subscribers, and we were talking about Central and South American affairs. I still believe that the issues coming out of Venezuela are going to eventually overshadow those coming out of Asia, at least in the everyday. Most Americans don't understand who the Vice President of Venezuela really is and how close things are to completely falling apart down there. The issue with the Fitzgerald and the McCain was kind of an aside. I know people. I was a human intelligence guy, a Spanish linguist, and watching the O'Coin presser, I knew something was up. And that's really the only reason I got into the issue with the Fitzgerald. And of course, history being what it is, we can see that that's been the majority of what we've talked about for the last 10 weeks. And the first time I tried to allege the channel was going to turn back to what I know in my wheelhouse, we had the issue with the McCain. We're still going to go back to it, because I have been asked by a couple of different channels, and I've had some private messages from other sources as well that wanted to do some different things with the channel to quote-unquote grow the channel much larger and have it take off. I never did this for money. I've never done this for notoriety or fame. I just wanted to contribute. I wanted to take what I learned in the military and apply it in a way that is helpful. The direction I've seen my country go in the last 8 to 10 years, especially recently, has disturbed me. And if it's just a matter of pointing a potato camera at a laptop and showing people what I see and asking their opinion of it, then it's worth my time. But I humbly have to decline those offers to be involved with other channels and to do those interviews, especially regarding the Fitzgerald and the McCain. It would be trying to pass myself off as a naval expert, and while I know people, I don't know the Navy. I know investigations, and whether you're wearing a blue uniform, olive drab, white, tan, green, there's people inside those uniforms, and procedures are procedures, and they don't change a whole lot across the military when things happen. Accidents happen all the time in the military, and how they're handled is pretty dry stuff. So this issue with these last two has really been something that I've not seen heretofore. But anyway, thank you so much, everyone, for the support at the channel. I don't work off script here. I just talk about what I see and what I know, and hopefully that's something that can be a blessing to the person listening. Today we're going to talk about something I know, and we're going to talk about this issue in South America. I have alleged that this issue is going to creep its way through the northern part of South America and end up in Panama, and the Venezuelan troops have already started to do incursions into Colombia, and it is not going to stop there. There is a plan afoot down there to get a hold of those countries by folks over in Russia and China. The Chinese have already pretty much secured the financial end in Panama. Now the Russians are going to step in and solve the issues in Venezuela. They have just agreed to send Venezuela 60,000 tons of grain every month, ad infinitum, in perpetuity, to help solve their food problem. I don't think many people would have believed you if you had told them that the Russians would be supplying food and grain, actually I think it's wheat, to a country in this hemisphere 1,000 miles away, and that the administration in charge would be talking about armed and incursions into that country. It's something you just wouldn't believe. The Russians are sending food to Venezuela, and we're talking about sending troops to Venezuela. It's just bizarro world. So, but the reason this is important, and it kind of goes along with something else the channel has covered, and it's this guy. And a lot of folks like to snicker when people talk about the military types getting involved and busted with prostitutes. Going all the way back to the Bible times with Rahab, prostitutes have been used by foreign intelligence services to compromise our assets. And this is so much of a bigger story than it has been given credit for. You can't even find a picture of one of the guys that was involved here. You can only find a couple of screen grabs of these two, this guy and the guy down here, Sands. But this guy, and I had actually misspoke, this guy wasn't the commander of Marfa South, he was the chief of operations, which still fairly high up, but I wanted to do something in this video that maybe might give you a better picture of what could have been accessed by having access to this guy. He lost his work laptop, iPhone, tablet, personal stuff. All three of these guys lost stuff. And the stuff they had with them was highly classified. Now, here's the chief of operations for Marfa South. And here are the two commanding officers of Marfa South and the senior ranking NCO. Now, the current is Bellin, but at the time that this happened, it was a guy named Iams, I-I-A-M-S. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. But, for example, let's just look at the chief of staff here. I think it's reasonable to assume that the chief of operations and the chief of staff of Marfa South probably had communications, access to each other's personal and business emails, and the ways to log in. When you have Apple products, it's just a matter of a thumbprint or fingerprint. This guy, his last duty assignment, Lieutenant Colonel Farrell, attended the United States Army War College, graduating in 2009, and then transferred to USOCOM, where he served as the Director of Information and Intelligence Systems Assessment Branch, JAHC. Do you know what could be accessed if you had access to this guy's personal emails? And remember something about this issue with this guy. They brought the prostitutes back to their room where they were drugged with scopolamine, and they were unconscious. And these prostitutes, and God knows whoever else, had access to their electronics and their biometrics. God only knows. Now, this guy also has an intelligence background, and it's buried in here. In January 2004, Major Bellin was once again activated and deployed as the intelligence officer for Regimental Combat Team 1 for OIF-2. He served as the intelligence officer for RCT-1 during its 14-month deployment in and around the city of Al-Fallujah, Iraq, participating in both battles for the city. He was promoted to lieutenant colonel during his tour. Okay, probably very likely that Colonel McDuffie had access to this guy's, was able to send this guy's emails, or personal information about this guy would have been able to be accessed through his electronics. And then we had this. You know, I'm not going to get into politics, but gosh, I thought all this was going to magically change in January. I mean, everybody wanted to beat up Obama because this happened under his watch too. But what, not even, what, 6 months, 7 months? And we already got this issue? And this was Army personnel. So, yeah, and in case anybody thinks I beat up on the Navy, it's only because the issues with the Fitzgerald and the McCain happen to be part of the Navy. Believe me, there is just as much bureaucracy and nonsense and politicians in uniform throughout the military, whether it's Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, whatever. But this is a very big deal, folks. Very, very big deal. And I've said it before. The issue with this is going to be judicial. The issue with at least Bryce Benson, the commander of the Fitzgerald, is going to be non-judicial. And he lost 7 guys. This guy lost a laptop. That's how serious the Marines are taking this. The Department of the Navy is taking this. And you don't see it. You don't see it anywhere other than on this channel, unless you happen to live in Miami, where it was in the Herald. And nobody knows about this. More people know a lot more about this. And this is a video in and of itself. I don't want to get into it because we're already at 10.5 minutes, but intelligence services are not the type of service that gets a lot of attention unless they're doing something very wrong. You don't have kids going into the recruiting office and saying, you know what, I want to be a cryptolinguist. You know, I want to be a information specialist. I want to be a human intelligence guy. They want to be, you know, the things they read about. So, but it's one of the most necessary parts of any military, and if you can't do this right, and you can't do this securely, you're going to get a lot of men killed. You really are, and we're starting to see it over in Asia. And pray God we don't start seeing it here, because there are forces very, very close that there is nothing that's going to be done if they decide they want to marshal forces and move. We just don't have the forces down there like we used to stop this. This would be over in a week if the Venezuelans decided that they were done with this, and they've had the backing now from the Russians, who are sending them all of that wheat. You know, the Russians are going to send them that wheat, and the Russians are going to want a favor for it. And you mark my words, in the next 6 months to a year, we are going to see Russian troops down there. We're going to see Russian special forces down there. And it's going to be under the guise of some kind of humanitarian deal. And they will be allowed to come in because they'll stabilize the situation, and they'll allow the current administration to wash their hands of it. And they'll have their issue. You know, they'll have something to complain and bitch and piss and moan about. Pardon my French. But they won't do anything about it, just like they're not doing anything about Kim Jong-il. Kim Jong-un. Sorry, I always get that wrong. Because how many nuclear tests and how many more missiles is it going to take? This last one flew right over an ally. Right over an ally. And not a word about it, nothing being done. I want you folks out there that think that the current administration is the solution to all your problems to really take a close look at this man's behavior and hold him up to the same standard that you held the last administration to. So, anyway, I'm not going to go too far down that road. Like, share, subscribe. Once again, thank you, Humboldt. 7,000 subscribers, all about you guys. And continue. We will see you next time. Thank you.